Yo, what's going on guys, Havoc here, now I'm back. Today we're going to be discussing 12 more things only OGs might remember from the early Clash Royale days. Basically in this series we take a look at some things that not everyone might know, but OGs will definitely remember that thing. Now of course this is a part 3, so if you guys want to watch the first 2 episodes, the playlist will be down below and also at the end of the video. So with that being said, let's get right into it.
Let's do this.
Buying cards one by one in the shop. When you go to the shop, you have a few cards presented to you and you get to choose what pack of cards you want to buy. But wait a minute, why can't we buy the amount of cards we actually need? Well, we actually could at one point. Up until like early to mid 2017, the shop was different and there were no predetermined cards that you had to buy. What you did instead is clicked on a card you wanted and you'd get a pop-up for that card giving you 2 options. You could buy the card one by one or take the entire stock that the shop had available. This was pretty great because it allowed the player to get exactly what they wanted, but after a small shop redesign, they changed it to what it is today. The 11th Elixir. You may remember this as Elixir Overcharge because in one update, Supercell announced that they'd be removing this mysterious Elixir Overcharge. But what is it? I'm not sure if it's super obvious because I didn't know what it was for a while, but let me keep it short. Basically, Elixir kept generating until 10.9 Elixir. Basically 11 elixir. So if you use 7 elixir, you would immediately get back 1 and have 4 elixir instead of 3, because the elixir overcharge was saving 1 extra elixir tucked away. When it was removed, Supercell said that the reason was that it was too hidden and not needed. If you remember this one though, you are definitely an OG. Landscape mode. This is a relatively small thing to mention, but for some reason, every time I think back to when we used to have landscape mode in the game, it's just very nostalgic. Probably because when we had landscape mode, the game was still fairly new, so maybe that's what makes it so nostalgic. So the feature wasn't exactly landscape mode for battles, but rather replays. I only ever experienced it on an iPad, but according to comments on past videos, it was also available on phones. It basically let you watch a replay in landscape mode, presumably because watching a replay was like watching a video, so they let you watch it in landscape mode. It didn't last long though, and shortly after global, the option was removed from the settings. We didn't need the feature, I'm not gonna lie, but I'll forever remember landscape mode. When the cancel button didn't work. I think a lot of you OGs will remember this one because the cancel button was such a huge joke. Memes about it started popping up everywhere, and at that point everyone knew that the cancel button did not work. Like if you clicked it, chances of it canceling the search for a battle were slim to none. Now in a way, this isn't entirely the game's fault. It just shows how fast the matchmaking can be in Clash Royale, especially when it was undoubtedly more popular back in the day. Over time though, the meme died down because the cancel button started to actually work. Sort of. And fast forward to today, the cancel button works like it's supposed to. Sometimes. I'm not saying it's perfect, I'm just saying it's not what it used to be. The cancel button from back in the day was just a button that did nothing. Legendary trophies. I wanted to mention this one in last year's episode, but I didn't feel like it was old enough yet. Well, it's been a year since that video and legendary trophies have been gone for 3 years now. So what is it? Well, I'm sure many of you know, but before seasons, leagues, and trophy road, the original seasons in the game were very simple. You pushed, and if you hit 3,000 trophies, later changed to 4,000, you would accumulate legendary trophies. At the end of the season would reset and your legendary trophies would be added up in your profile. So after every season, you would have more and more. Now, these trophies had no use other than bragging rights, maybe. So in early 2017, this system was replaced with leagues. But even after it was removed, we still had our trophies in our profile. It wasn't until December of 2018 where they got removed and we got compensated for it. It's got a bit of history, and although it felt like it was yesterday, time really does fly. Goblin with the clock. This one is pretty small, but do you guys remember the goblin holding a pocket watch in the shop? Yeah, I felt like I had to mention it because it feels like a lost memory sometimes. What's even more interesting though, probably, did you guys know that there was nothing there before him? Okay, maybe it's not that interesting, but yeah, that's the history of the goblin. It went from nothing in the shop to the goblin with the clock, and then the goblin with the fortune chest. Very small, but for some reason it was interesting to me. When Tournament Standard did not exist. Tournament Standard has a bit of history in Clash Royale, and what it started as is not what it is today. So Tournament Standard used to be a level cap. That's it. So when you played friendly battles, your cards would be capped at a certain level. That's, Tournament Standard. But the problem is that if you were like, let's say a level 6 with low level cards, your cards wouldn't be at that cap. You just had to play like that because the Tournament Standard was just a cap. It wasn't until months later on November of 2016 that the Tournament Standard was changed to what it is today. So if you have lower cards now, they'll go higher to meet that standard. I think this is the best version of it yet because it works flawlessly. Oh, and also there was no Tournament Standard when the game came out, but I think you guys knew that one. Old card images. In previous episodes, we had or how do you say it? Like when you've heard something, we've had a listen, that's what I meant, to old sounds. Now in this episode, I wanted to show you some of the old card images. It's nothing crazy, but I just wanted to show a few of them, like the fireball and stuff like that. I've probably showed them all by now, so let's move on to the next one. When Supercell used to add like 4 or 6 cards at a time in the same day. Remember when Supercell said we get a new card every 2 weeks? That didn't age well. Anyways, that's not what we're here to talk about. Do you guys remember before that when the Clash Royale team was adding like 4 or 6 cards every update? Yeah, crazy times, eh? The crazier thing is that all of these cards were usually added the same day the update came out, so there was no countdown or a challenge for the cards. No. Now over time it became apparent that this method wasn't viable, and so in one update they switched things up. Instead of releasing these cards in bulk, they would spread them out and release them like every 1 to 4 weeks. Eventually that changed again when they were adding 1 card every update, which was sometimes months of waiting. Still, it's very nostalgic to me remembering those days. Screenshotting every time you got a legendary. Facts, man. This one hits different. It doesn't need a whole lot of explaining, but I remember when legendaries were so rare that every time you got one, it was like the best feeling on earth. Some of us even screenshotted these moments to show friends or to keep a memory. It seems silly all these years later, but back then, who wasn't overhyped of getting a legendary, right? As you've noticed, the hype has died down and we now have a new rarity, champions, so this will probably never come back, like that feeling. The old menu. Clash Royale in general has gone through a lot of changes and redesigns, but one thing in particular that I remember a lot is the old menu. The menu has gone through 3 redesigns, I believe, and it's usually just moving buttons around or removing buttons or putting this in there. But looking at the first iteration is super nostalgic. Just look at those buttons and everything that was on the screen. I don't know. I was debating with myself whether I should include this in the video, but I couldn't help myself. I miss the old Clash Royale. Like, I appreciate the changes over the years, but there's always gonna be a place in your heart for the first thing of anything. Massive tournaments. I've definitely mentioned this one a lot in different videos, so I'm gonna try and keep it short. Basically, when tournaments were added, there were some massive tournaments you could start. The most expensive one cost 250,000 gems. Now, if you divide that by a $100 pack, you get 17.8. So you would have needed to buy about 18 of the $100 packs in order to pay for this tournament, which is 1,800. It was insane, and it still is. But what was crazier was the first place chest for that tournament, which gave the winner 15,000 cards. Whoa! Now these big tournaments didn't last long because shortly after being added, they were removed. This was all the way back in the summer of 2016, so I think this is definitely an OG thing. So guys, I think that should be it for these 12 things only OGs might remember from the old Clash Royale days. If you guys have any ideas for a part 4 that I can make next year, definitely let me know. Yes, next year, because next year is next week. No. Okay, sorry. Anyways, yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Please like, comment, and subscribe. As always, thanks for watching. Have a gaming out. Peace!